Hello everyone, I'm Dillionaire. This episode was short and sweet, but it left me screaming at the end because it was over. This is my thoughts and review for RWBY Volume 9, Episode 9, A Tale Involving a Tree. Let's get into it. We open with a narration of Alex's fairy tale. As it continues, we see the woman narrating is none other than Summer Rose. She's reading the story to put Kid Yang and RWBY to sleep. We see the present RWBY, encased in wood, as Summer asks, "What are you?" And there it is. Summer gets her first spoken appearance in the show. I love her design. It's so much better than her previous ones, I must say. We switch to the rest of our main characters speeding towards the tree on Juniper. Jean doesn't understand why people keep wanting to ascend. First it was the Pleasers, and now it's RWBY. They reach the Pleaser Acre, and he looks towards the destroyed village and the tree in the distance, asking himself what he did wrong. And Weiss tells him that they can figure this out. A familiar, yet different star person approaches them and asks if it can help them. Jean is confused, but happy to see it, asking it what it is. It says that they're the genial gems, and they're here to clean up the land. They all work together to form a giant pillar of crystal out of the water. And everyone is delighted to see that they've come back. They're stronger than they were before, and floods and fires won't destroy them again. Seeing this, Jean realizes that by saving them, he was preventing them from becoming what they needed to be. He was being selfish and only saving them for himself. Weiss tells him he's too hard on himself, saying that even the greatest huntsmen in history have all failed. But the important thing is that they were all brave and good. They have a group hug to cheer Jean up as he realizes the error of his ways. After accepting the reality of Ascension and his failures, the tree sends many leaves to them, and Jean repeats the cat's line of, "It's not a place you go," as they're transported to the tree. At first, I thought it was a bit weird that they were this cheery with what happened to RWBY, but then I thought about it a little more. Team RWBY has all accepted before this that Ascension isn't death nor a bad thing. With the gems in front of their eyes, they can see it's simply what needs to be done to better yourself. Jean was upset because he had seen Ascension as death, but after seeing the genial gems, he understood how wrong he was. Yang was catatonic in the moment because to everyone involved, including RWBY, it was like choosing death. They talk more about this later in the episode, but rewatching it made me have a better understanding. As they all wander around the tree confused, they stumble into a wood carving of the herbalist. Yang, however, sees a similar one in the distance. It's RWBY. She hugs it and starts frantically ripping the leaves off of it. Jean tries to comfort her, but she snaps, saying they need to get her out. Jean tells them that the tree brought them there to learn acceptance. Weiss says that whatever happens is up to RWBY and they have to welcome it. Blake puts her hands on Yang's face to calm her down, but she's worried that she won't be the same RWBY when she comes back. A cracking noise is heard as the herbalist breaks out of his wooden cocoon with big blue butterfly wings and flies off. Blake sees this and tells Yang that whatever RWBY becomes isn't up for them to decide. It's RWBY's choice and hers alone. She's caressing Yang's cheek as she tears up. This is a wonderful scene of acceptance. Of course, they all deeply care for RWBY and want her to come out safe and unchanged. But after everything that's happened, they understand that only RWBY knows what she herself is going through. They don't have the right to make such an important decision for her and just have to support her no matter what when she emerges. These characters have grown so much since the start of the series, and they are the best friends you could hope for. And I know RWBY will think so too when she returns. We then see RWBY wandering through a dark blue void, with the souls of those who are moving on floating about. She comes across the blacksmith, who is forging something new. She tells RWBY that they weren't expecting her yet. and RWBY asks if they're the tree. The smith laughs. It's sort of true, but it's a simplistic understanding of the tree. The smith puts down her hammer in the project she's working on. The last time we saw her, she was working on blue butterfly wings. We saw that RWBY got these wings, so it's safe to say she creates the new parts for Ascension. The thing she's working on now seems to be a skull, or mask. It's shaped very much like a mouse. Little is probably going to become big. RWBY asks if she's going to die, but the blacksmith tells her that whatever happens to her will be her own decision. However, RWBY doesn't know what she wants to become. We switch back to the others as they discover the way out, back to Remnant. But the cat is here and desperately trying to leave, but it's being repelled by the door. They notice the group and Weiss makes fun of them, but they immediately snap back by saying Weiss was always the worst of the bunch. When they said that, I laughed. I was not expecting Weiss to catch a stray that quickly. Jean quickly understands that Neo isn't able to go through the door, and the cat confirms it. She has no attachment to Remnant, nothing to go back to. Their plan to use Neo has failed, just as their plan to use Alex did. They reveal when Alex had talked to the tree, she had a change of heart. She wanted to fix everything she'd destroyed in the Ever After. She wanted to fix Jean after she poisoned him. So Louis left alone back to Remnant, while Alex stayed behind. Blake asks what they did to Alex, and they imply that they killed her. I don't believe that to be entirely true, though. I believe that Alex has ascended into the Smith, possibly even after her death, due to the curious cat. Her blue sash is present as a headband, and she has similar colors on her that Alex did. Plus, it would make sense given that Alex wanted to fix everything that was broken. And now we know the reason that Alex was different in reality than she was in the book is because Alex didn't write the book. Louis wrote it when he went home alone, presumably to archive their journey and to honor his sister who didn't make it home. In the past, Oscar wondered why in the story Alex was sad when she made it back home, to which Ozpin replies that she wasn't the same girl anymore. In the context that we know now, this has more of an impact. She was sad in the story because Louis wrote it. He had lost his sister when he returned home, and he wrote himself out of the story. And Alex wasn't the same anymore, probably due to Ascension. The cat readies for battle after Jean calls them a monster, but they notice RWBY's wooden carving. They become overjoyed that she's still here. Their plan hasn't been stopped yet. They know that deep down, RWBY wants to return to Remnant, to be a huntress, to be the hero. They're going to cut RWBY out of the tree to get to Remnant. Jean, Weiss, Blake, and Yang are determined to stop the cat. They have to let RWBY do this. She has to figure out what she wants to be by herself. The cat threatens them, saying that it will put them in the ground. I love that they don't want RWBY to break out of the tree. They want her to ascend because they know that if she does, she will be who she really wants to be at heart. Her reason for being will finally be realized and they won't let anyone stop it. Cutting back to RWBY, she's walking through the Sea of Souls with the Smith, and she tells her that these souls are moving on to where they're going next. RWBY asks if they get to choose their next life. The Smith is interested in her worries, as they're for souls that she doesn't know. But she wonders if it's really for her own soul. We then get a great fight scene of everyone fighting the cat. The animation is gorgeous. The way the cat fights is so powerful despite being so agile, breakdancing and swinging massive claws around. The cat really shows off their intelligence here too. They utilize Neo's semblance very well to try to break the spirits of the team and even make them attack each other. Everyone feels like they're really struggling with this fight, probably due to a mix of the emotions that they didn't even have time to cope with yet, and the cat is just absolutely mind-gaming them. They use an illusion of Penny to get Jean to stop his attack, and then backstab him with a different illusion of Pyrrha. Why? Why must Jean be hurt in this way? Leave him alone. Hasn't he suffered enough? Though it is extremely cool to see an action sequence like this. Jean isn't a pushover. He handles himself very well. He puts more of his body and his weight into the attacks now. Weiss gets tricked and hits Jean with a fireball, and he gets launched off the tree, or at least off this branch. While he's falling, we see the smoke clouds that we saw at the herbalist's place, so I wonder how they'll play into this. In the Sea of Souls, RWBY tells the smith that she wanted to be a hero, like the ones in the books her mother read to her. The tears flow down her face as she admits she doesn't know if she's done more harm than good. And she doesn't know who she needs to be. Who she is now just isn't cutting it. The smith brings up an extremely large variety of weapons, asking what she would do if she could be anyone. RWBY wanders around examining all the weapons, asking who used a specific one of them. To which the smith replies, it isn't about the past, who did, it's about the future, who could. She asks RWBY if she can feel the woman who will hold it, and the weight of who she is, and that she could be RWBY. She tells RWBY that she could pick up any of the weapons here and leave Ruby Rose behind. RWBY thinks they all feel heavy. It's the only thing she ever feels anymore, and it never goes away. It's the feeling of not being enough. Though she notices a weapon out of the corner of her eye. Her mother, Summer Rose's weapon. The smith asks just how do you measure being enough? And RWBY reaches for Summer's weapon while calling out to her. Summer continues her narration from the beginning, saying that before she went home, the girl had a great many questions to ponder. What are you? End of episode. When it ended, I had stood up and yelled, "No, it's over already?" They had to fit so much into this episode, and it kind of felt like they rushed certain things. You could probably contribute it to time constraints, as the volume will be ending next episode, and it's shorter than all the other volumes. They had to tell the story within a time limit, so what can you do about it? I'm sure it will flow better when watching it as the entirety of Volume 9 rather than a standalone episode. Jean's acceptance happens almost instantly. However, it would be hard to doubt seeing the value in Ascension when it's right in front of your eyes. I don't think he's done accepting things, of course, as he's still haunted by the unfair choice he had to make at the end of Volume 8. The fight choreography has really taken a step up in recent years. They've done a great job with the fights in this volume. The soundtrack to this episode was awesome too. The original song is a vibe, and the leitmotif of Red Like Roses that plays while RWBY is looking at the weapons in the Sea of Souls was an amazing touch. I could definitely see us getting a Red Like Roses Part 3 for the finale next week. I really hope we do, in fact. If we look at the songs like they're telling a story, Part 1 sets the stage, while Part 2 was a conflict and climax, so Part 3 of Red Like Roses could be a resolution, and it would fit extremely well with RWBY finding out who she's really meant to be. I just know it would be in my playlist in an instant. Speaking of, I believe that in choosing Summer's weapon, it's not just her choosing to be Summer. In the Ever After, you have to be absolutely sure of what you ascend into, and the inhabitants immediately know what they want. It seems that Little has already chosen what they want, even though they fell at the same time as RWBY. Herb and the Gems have finished their ascension also. RWBY, however, is lost. She needs to find herself before she knows if she wants to change. This is the Smith's way of seeing if RWBY's certain about changing, as in the end, the process is all up to her. Summer will probably appear and talk to RWBY next episode, telling her that she doesn't need to be her. She doesn't need to follow in Summer's footsteps because she needs to be her own person. She shouldn't try to be the hero. She just needs to be Ruby Rose. Hopefully they have a very sweet moment together and get the goodbye they never got to have. And I can't wait to see an ascended Little helping Team RWBY get back home. Their new purpose could be to serve as a guide to anyone who's become lost in the ever after. They've always been proud of guiding Team RWBY, even when the Smith herself asked them. Back to Jean for a moment. I wonder how he'll reach the top of the tree again, and how the herbalist's smoke will come into play. Will the herbalist help him on his journey, as that was what he wanted to do before his ascension? Jean could really use a self-affirming moment like Weiss, Blake, and Yang had prior. A lot of people think that Jean will ascend and become young again, but I don't want to jump to Ascension for Jean, as I feel doing it more and more will take any meaning out of it. Plus, I think that an older Jean returning to Remnant after spending most of his life in the Ever After would be very interesting. His interactions with all the characters and his teammates would be pretty cool to see. I don't like jumping on the Ascension wagon because I don't think it should be the end for everyone's problems. The Ever After isn't here to have us fix everything and be alright, it's here to show us what's wrong and how we can fix it. So RWBY isn't just going into the tree to ascend and fix all her problems just like that, she's going to learn how to deal with them. And I think that Jean doesn't need an ascension. And as for Neo, I believe she's still in there somewhere. The way I think of it is a situation just like Oscar and Ozpin. They're both inhabiting the same body. Neo just needs to take control to fight back against them. She has no ties to Remnant, so I don't think we'll be seeing her much more, unless something crazy happens. I hope we don't lose her though, as I do love her energy. I know I'm just redundantly repeating myself now, but I hope we get to see at least a sneak peek of Summer's life as a huntress. If we can see Team Stark going through some similar issues as Team RWBY, I believe it will convince RWBY that even the greatest huntsmen lose. Or it might convince her that her idols aren't as perfect as her childish mind might make her believe. Not everyone is perfect, and it's going to take a lot of effort and support to succeed against such a strong enemy like Salem. I understand it's going to be RWBY's moment, and I'm glad she'll get her chance to shine this volume, but I'm such a big Team Stark fanboy that I want even the slightest crumb of them. Even if it's just Summer training with her weapon, I just want to see her swing it and shoot once or twice. Rooster Teeth, please. The scene we see at the beginning could also be the last thing she did before she set off on her final mission that ended up making her lose her life. Putting her kids to bed right before leaving home to risk her life. And it would make RWBY's love of fairy tales make even more sense. It would be the last thing she remembers her mother by, as she was just a kid. We might get to see what's happening in Vacuo at the very end of the episode, if that's where the tree's exit takes them. I wonder if time acts the same, or if they've been gone for seconds or years on Remnant. But that's not for this video. No matter what happens, I believe the finale is going to blow everyone's minds, and I can't wait any longer. I'll definitely be watching it the moment it comes out, and I hope you'll look forward to my video on it. My predictions seem to have a habit of being completely wrong, but I won't let that sway me. 2 of them were disproven, but RWBY still has a chance to wield Summer's weapon. My predictions for the next episode are Jean having a I'm a huntsman moment with the herbalist, RWBY finally getting to say goodbye to her mother, Red Like Roses Part 3, and finally, Team RWBY and Jean leave the Ever After, with Jean still being older, to see Grimm attacking Shade Academy. What do you think will happen next episode? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, it means a lot. Please consider subscribing. The weight has me on the edge of my seat, and I need to know what happens next. See you then!